Thank you for your gifts, Ken, and for the congregation. That was lovely to hear. My message this morning is called Repairing Our Tapestry. It's the first Sunday in November, and so we've started a new theme of repair. So this morning, I want to think about ourselves as a tapestry. So think about the tapestry of your own life as many threads woven together. Maybe you can feel it or picture it in your mind. So imagine those threads of your life, a strand for the people who raised you, maybe some stitched in flowers for first loves or for first friendship and romance. Maybe there are symbols on there, a patch or something that you've put in, maybe bejeweling for significant times in your life, maybe a braid of leather for an alt lifestyle phase, or some safety pins for a punk era. Maybe there's spandex or sparkles for your theatrical flair. Your tapestry includes your strengths and your struggles. Think about the colors, the patterns, the materials, the shape of it, all impacted by your stories, experiences, and people along the way. Let's just take a moment to acknowledge the journey that created the tapestry of who you are. And how is it doing? Does it need any repair or tending to? So we're going to play with the metaphor of a tapestry for you for a bit and focus on your individual tapestry. And then I'm going to share some tools for communal tapestry because we are not isolated in our experiences. We interweave with each other and are interconnected. So let's pay attention to our individual tapestry. Are there any loose threads? So by that I mean, are there places where something has been working, but now it's not working anymore? It's starting to come a little bit apart. Have you ever been in an experience where you felt like you were coming a bit apart? Or where you've been doing the same thing over and over again, so there's just been that wear on it because it's the elbows have always been sitting there, or the back of your knees have been bent, and it's just wearing thin, it's loose. Maybe the tools aren't working anymore, so you need different tools. You need some supports. Recently, I watched The Nightmare Before Christmas for the first time. I can't believe it, but I watched it for the first time. And in the story, Jack Skellington, he has been doing Halloween so long that he gets bored with it. And so he's looking for something new and sparkly, and he discovers Christmas. And he's like, I am going to be all about Christmas. And he tries something new. He doesn't exactly succeed with it. I'm trying not to spoil it too much for anybody who, like me, hadn't seen it. But he doesn't exactly succeed, but he learns the element of spontaneity and something different by trying something new. So if your practices have always been the same, like you relax by watching Netflix or YouTube videos, but that is not feeling fulfilling anymore, maybe you need to spark it up and be like, I am going to take a pottery class or go dancing or something. Like Jack Skellington, maybe you don't get it exactly right, but it brings new creativity to your life. So those places where you've got some loose threads, where things aren't working, where things are the routine and the same and it's not serving you, mix it up. Think about that in repairing your tapestry. The next part of the tapestry is imagining where your material might be really stretched thin and it needs some support because it's doing a lot of work. I want us to kind of do an embodied experience to imagine the stretching thin, and we're gonna stretch our lungs, okay? So as you breathe in, take a deep breath and think of all the directions you get pulled. Keep breathing in and think of more. Who else is there that's pulling you? Now let it out in a long, calming stream. Your lungs are stretched and then it's released. You think about that with your material of your life. You're pulled in so many different directions. So drop your shoulders, unclench your jaw, wiggle your toes. Remember, you only have so much material. You only have so much control. And maybe if you've been stretched so much, you need to practice some micro practices for well-being, like that deep breath of noticing everything you're taking in and letting it go. Maybe you just need to do a body scan for a few seconds every day. Maybe just look out the window and notice the beauty. I like the gloomy day today. I think it's nice for November. And then I think in social media a couple years ago, people were talking about quiet quitting. Like maybe you're just doing too much. There's only so much you can control, and you want to find what you're accountable for and do that and respond to that and not do more. And maybe sometimes it is time for someone else to take the practice, someone else who has more strength, who still has the elasticity in their material, and you want to say, that's enough for me. My tapestry needs a rest. I take a sip. One more space in the individual, two more spaces in the individual tapestry. One that we might be able to think of in our communal as well. It's the idea of rips or cuts, those areas that need mending. And for the places that need mending, I want to think of these as the ones where we might need something new to patch it. We might need emotional care or therapy, health care. We need some services and supports. Because those are just places where we've been so torn asunder, all those griefs and losses that we've had. And we need something else there to really put it back together. Have you ever seen kintsugi, the art of Japanese pottery, where they repair it with gold so that those places where it's broken become even stronger and even more beautiful? I see these, to go back to our tapestry metaphor though, I see these videos on Instagram where they show where things have been ripped, and instead of throwing it out or being like, just cut it off, they stitch intricate patterns and it becomes like a beautiful art piece. So those places where you've been ripped, what kind of healing and pattern and beauty can you to bring in to cover that pain? What kind of services and supports outside of yourself are there to tend to those rips and tears? We think of the other part of the tapestry of its use yourself in life. Maybe it gets a little dirty or soiled, and it needs that routine care, that washing. So what are the daily habits in your life that keep you refreshed? What are the relationships that provide your care? What can you do to brighten your tapestry? One practice known to increase happiness and brighten your day is gratitude. So we've experienced a harvest season, and in the United States, we come to a holiday of Thanksgiving at the end of this month. And so if you're thinking about your tapestry like we did in the beginning, that people interweave with you, add those threads of life to what you're doing, who comes to mind that has had a meaningful, positive impact? Can we take a moment just to note our mental thanks to that person or to those people? If it's someone you can call or text, I encourage you to do that today. Or talk to. Maybe it's someone in this community. So, there's a possibility of all those individual needs and resources on your tapestry. But let's also think about the communal tapestry. So we've got support, mediating presence, systemic improvements, social justice, celebration of diversity, mutual care, gratitude with one another, the mending, the self-care habits, the community care habits. But what are the tools for repair in the relational tapestry? So when I think about one tool, when you think about a tapestry with others, maybe there's some that really go well together with you. You're like, this just looks great. I like my t-shirts with my jeans, and these two materials, they're just meshed. We really flow. But maybe you're connected with someone, a neighbor who you don't get along with. Their tapestry is all over the place, and how is it supposed to blend with yours? So how can we learn acceptance with the clash of materials and patterns? Even if it's not possible and not recommended to go along to get along, we can still remember that our well-being is bound up. It's stitched with someone else's. Like the story of all ages, we share the same earth. If someone is polluting everything, it's going to hurt us all. So how can we encourage best practices for all of us? How do we do our best to move forward an agenda of love and humanity? Within our own tapestry, we blend with others in relationships, and there may be need for repair. So what are the tools of repair? I think one is confrontation. I think sometimes we need to address the violations, identify them, and say, this isn't right. I need some change. I have some boundaries, and your tapestry is infringing on mine. And maybe there's a mediating presence for that confrontation so that there's something in between where someone still has room to grow and to change before they know how to be in relationship with you. But there might be some confrontation to get there. I think another tool is perspective taking. People come from where they come from, and they've built their tapestry and become complicated, and that's why they are where they are. And so how can you help to understand where they come from? Where do they know from? Where do you know from, and where is the disconnect there? So taking that perspective. You want to assume their core human goodness, even if they aren't acting in it, and move forward as much as possible with love, but not forgetting sometimes you still need those tools of boundary setting, addressing violation, setting new boundaries. You can still have anger about things. That's one of the tools of addressing violation, comes from your anger. But you have to also recognize the core of humanity and that we're in this together ultimately. At least that's what I want to do. I feel like I'm saying you. So, accountability is another tool. So check in with the boundaries that I have crossed, that you say, what have I crossed? Where have I missed the mark and I need to be accountable to someone for my actions? Maybe just like I did, where I said, oh, I'm saying you a lot, and I mean us and me included. And so I need to be accountable to note that. And so how do we make amends? How do we provide recompense? We want to do better, want to practice humility, to be teachable and accountability. Another tool is acceptance. Sometimes you can't change everything. Like you think about that being stretched thin, there's only so much material, only so much you can control. So how do you practice some acceptance of where people are on their journey is different than where you are? Create some distance, some emotional distance, or some boundary settings. We learned recently in this community, something came up, and we talked about how everyone is loved in the community, but not all behavior is acceptable. So we need to practice the acceptance of someone's humanity, but the confrontation on behavior and the practice of distance and boundaries, and that we keep discipline for our own boundaries. And just to know that things happen, and then we employ our healing tools for those things that have happened that have been difficult or grieving or conflicts. Then the other tool, I think, even in community, is self-acceptance, of unconditional positive regard for oneself by knowing and understanding your story, all the things that wove your tapestry together, and to say, oh, I do need to do better here. But I know where I came from, and I know it was in good intent, and so now I'm willing to learn because I first accepted the humanity within me. And the final tool I have for us is forgiveness. And this is a hard one, I think. And it's not one that's always useful, and it's not always useful in some ways that it's been employed, of saying that forgiveness means everything's okay and we can go back to the way we were. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying in the line of acceptance and self-acceptance, of being able to say, I'm not going to seek repayment, and I'm going to establish inner peace. I'm going to have another sip of water. So, it feels like there's a lot of work we have to do to be an interwoven community and repair our tapestry. But what I want to think about is that our connection and doing this work and getting to know each other and making those repairs, taking perspective, being accountable, being accepting, confronting when it needs to be there, setting boundaries, being supportive of one another, taking up the slack when someone else is stretched too thin, that our unity and our connection is a strength. There's a wisdom teaching in Ecclesiastes 4:12, and it states, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. So let's think about that and think about the stories at the beginning of our time. In the story of all ages, we think about how we are all connected and how we have to care for the same space and same air we breathe, and that, again, our well-being is tied up with someone else's. Our tapestry is interconnected and interwoven. And in the parable with the child who discovers the truth that caring for one person is a way to repair the world. So yes, we care for another. We can be part of putting someone's tapestry back together. Maybe we're doing a little stitching or mending for them. But also the care of oneself. The one person you have the influence over and are able to do the most repair work with is you. For me, it's me. And when we do that, we can have that impact on repairing the world. That's all for me for now. Thank you.